From the minute your film walks in the room, it's doomed, cause this is the place where you go if the film was crap and made no sense. You won't sit on the fence, he's getting burnt in his show. It's cinematic venom, it's cinematic venom, it's cinematic venom, it's cinematic venom.
After a tiny little film that you may have heard of called Star Wars, it wasn't that big a deal, but for some reason George Lucas thought that it was at least successful enough for him to self-fund the sequel, The Empire Strikes Back, using loans and the previous film's profits, which was unheard of with Hollywood filmmakers at the time, and quite a daring move.
We will test it.
This meant that Lucas was now in full command of the Star Wars series, but he did refuse to direct it, focusing more on producing and overlooking the special effects as well as funding. He hired one of his former professors to take over directorial duties, Irvin Kershner, who had a few films to his name, and originally turned George down, claiming they'd never be able to match the success of the original. However, when Kershner informed his agent, he forced him to take the job, saying that he would have to be a complete moron to pass up directing a sequel to one of the most famous movies of all time.
He has foreseen this.
The film takes place 3 years after the first movie. The crew have a new base on Vanilla Ice's home planet, while Darth Vader is hell-bent on hunting down Mark Hamill and tying him down, forcing him to talk as the Joker for countless hours for his enjoyment. The Empire learn of their location, causing an attack. Han Solo and Princess Leia, or Leia, C-3PO even pronounces it two completely different ways in 10 seconds.
It's Princess Leia, sir. She's been trying to get you on the communicator.
I turned it off. I don't want to talk to her.
Well, Princess Leia is wondering about...
Make up your mind, guys.
Leia.
Ah, that's better.
But we understand, don't we, Chewie?
Anyway, Han Solo and Princess Leia kinda have a thing going on now. Yeah, it's weird, we'll get onto that later. Luke gets visions from a ghostly Alec Guinness who's come back for another paycheck, advising him to go find a Jedi Master called Yoda, voiced by Frank Oz, master of the Muppets and Sesame Street, who then trains him to become stronger before realising his friends are in trouble. Attacks, chase scenes, effects that made me want to splooge, Han Solo is frozen and left to rot, confrontation with Darth Vader, and that tiny little plot twist that nobody really remembers and everybody totally saw coming.
I am your father.
When it came to writing the screenplay, Lucas brought on Lee Brackett to write the originally titled Star Wars 2, holding story conferences and a treatment under the title The Empire Strikes Back was finished by late November 1977. Yep, the very same year the first movie came out.
I haven't got time for anything else.
The treatment was actually very similar to the final product, except we don't get that brilliant twist at the end. Instead, Luke's father appears as a ghost to instruct him. Why do that when you could just bribe Alec Guinness to do more cameos he hated?
I'm beginning to agree with you.
In fact, it's a surprise to no one that Guinness himself wasn't too fond of returning, but finally agreed, only working one day and only being paid 1/4% of the film's gross. It was still millions of dollars though. But hey, it's good to know that Obi-Wan Kenobi is still a douchebag, literally telling Luke to abandon all of his friends that are all in impending danger. The afterlife didn't really make him any more moral, did it? But credit to Alec Guinness, here he actually attempts a different facial expression. Look at that effort. I must raise my eyebrows. Just a bit more. Oh, I am exhausted.
Don't do that.
Lee Brackett completed the first draft of the screenplay in early 1978, but George Lucas was very disappointed with it. However, before he was able to talk things over with her, she sadly passed away from cancer. Lucas continued writing, including the episode numbering that would be used for the future of the series, though this was originally called Episode 2. Oh, so that means the entire fanbase will fucking hate it!
We'll never get it out now.
Allegedly, Lucas's disappointment with Brackett's first draft made him indecisive in the direction to take the story. He soon inserted the most famous plot twist in movie history, and George confessed this was a script he really enjoyed to write, as opposed to previous screenplays where he struggled, and he finished up 2 more drafts by April of 1978. He also aimed to take this film in a more dark and sinister direction, including Han Solo's imprisonment and unseen fate at the end.
Who'd have thought that, huh?
Now, there's always been stories, which admittedly I can't seem to find any evidence to back up, that George Lucas has stated that he had the entire series planned out from the very beginning. This is contradicted, however, by him altering Lee Brackett's script, not including Darth's plot twist, and even Michael Kominsky's book, The Secret History of Star Wars. He calls it unlikely that the plot point had ever been considered before 1978, having no reference or hint to it whatsoever in the previous film. Furthermore, Lucas admits in the DVD commentary that Obi-Wan Kenobi was originally supposed to live throughout the entire trilogy, and then he died in the very first one.
Maybe I'm just going crazy.
It was only after writing this important plot point he decided to make it a trilogy and then changed it to Episode 5. Lawrence Kasdan had just finished writing Raiders of the Lost Ark, and Lucas loved it so much he hired him to finish up work on Empire screenplay, with director Kershner also contributing.
Stay and help you, I will.
Filming began on March the 5th, 1979 in Norway, and much like the first movie, the weather was unkind to the cast and crew, the country suffering the worst winter storm in 50 years. I'm starting to think that these films are a little cursed. As previously explained in my review of Star Wars Episode 4 A New Hope, you should go and check it out, it's pretty awesome, Mark Hamill suffered a car accident between films, scarring his face. There's a scene in this one where he gets attacked and it was rumoured that it was put in just to explain the transition to his mush. See what I did there? Mush. Snow.
Shut up!
Lucas denied these claims, however, but admitted that it certainly did help the situation. On March the 13th, 1979, filming returned to Elstree Studios in London using a total of over 60 sets, double the amount in the previous picture. Just a few months beforehand, during filming of Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, a fire broke out in the same studio, forcing them to increase the budget to $22 million, and then by July that same year, a further $3 million was added, finally wrapping up shooting in September 1979. Ironic about Stephen King though, considering he visited the set frequently and did admit that it inspired a lot of his later work. To the point he even named a character in It after the director, Irvin Kershner.
You trust him?
No.
Like before, Lucas allowed his actors to improvise where they felt necessary. Most famous is originally Leia confesses her love to Han and he just reciprocated the feelings. Another line considered was, just remember that Leia because I'll be back. Because, you know, Terminator also ripped a lot of stuff off from this film, so why not give them another line they could have stole? This was a bit weary because Harrison Ford wasn't sure he even wanted to come back for a third film to begin with, hence this unknown outcome at the end. Ford wanted his character to be killed off, but Lucas insisted on the cliffhanger that Terminator 2 ripped off many years later in case he changed his mind. But anyway, sidetracked. Harrison Ford also felt like these weren't anything that his character would realistically say and changed it to the much better response.
I love you.
I know.
He also kept the famous twist secret as possible during filming. So much so, the actor of Darth Vader, David Prowse, again being redubbed by James Earl Jones later, spoke a different line on set.
Obi-Wan destroyed your father.
And it was even done so secretly, Mark Hamill himself did not even know until the cameras were all set up for his close-up shot. That's how you surprise a motherfucker.
Well, that was a long time ago. I'm sure he's forgotten about that.
But because David Prowse has to bitch about everything it seems, he was furious at George Lucas. Isn't he always? For not informing him of the twist beforehand, saying that his acting and body language would have been completely different if he had known the actual line. Unfortunately, however, the secret wasn't 100% covered as the novelization released a month before the film didn't even try to hide the twist. You almost had it perfect, guys. Almost. But come on, who reads anyway? James Earl Jones, who even said the damn line, refused to believe this as a genuine plot point, convinced Darth Vader was lying to Luke until he saw the third movie.
I want proof, not leads.
The movie wasn't without controversy. These films used a very odd technique at the time of having the credits appear only at the end of the picture. It wasn't an issue for the first film because Lucas matched the company name, but here it was his own production. His name was at the start, but the director, writers and crew were all at the end. The Writers and Directors Guilds of America actually fined Lucas over $250,000 and tried to pull the film out of theaters worldwide, and furthermore tried to sue the director himself as well. Amazingly, George simply paid all of the fines himself, but then left the Directors and Writers Guild and the Motion Picture Association out of protest.
We have a new enemy.
Because of the increase in budget, The Empire Strikes Back was at the time one of the most expensive films ever made, and Lucas's bank threatened to pull his loan, forcing him to approach 20th Century Fox, securing a deal for them to cover the loan with him paying them more money. Once the movie came out and was totally not a big financial success, the studio weren't too pleased with the generous deal they had signed, causing the president, Alan Ladd Jr. to quit. The movie premiered on May the 17th, 1980 in Washington, D.C. and was not a big deal at all, only making a poxy $10,840,307 in its opening weekend. It made that much money just on its opening weekend.
Yep, that's it.
The film ended up grossing around $450 million worldwide, but after re-releases in 1997, it grossed a total of $538,375,067 worldwide. Despite this film's fame, known as being the best one, Vincent Canby from the New York Times slated it. When I went to see The Empire Strikes Back, I found myself glancing at my watch almost as often as I did when I was sitting through a truly terrible movie called The Island. Must be a pretty nice looking watch.
Thanks.
David Denby of New York Magazine called it a Wagnerian pop movie, grandiose, thrilling, imperiously generous in scale, and also a bit ponderous. Judith Martin of the Washington Post hated the plot and said the story had no particular beginning or end, though George Lucas claimed this was actually his intent.
He's as clumsy as he is stupid.
Bob Stevens of the San Francisco Examiner called it the greatest episode of the Star Wars trilogy. In 2016, Playboy ranked it number 3 in the list of sequels that are way better than the original. The Dark Knight Stumbles 2 will one day be on that list. Just keep a lookout.
I hope you know what you're doing.
Roger Ebert called it the strongest and most thought-provoking film of the original trilogy. Chuck Klosterman claimed movies like Easy Rider and Saturday Night Fever painted living portraits for generations they represented in the present tense. The Empire Strikes Back might be the only example of a movie that set the social aesthetic for a generation coming in the future.
Don't get all mushy on me.
Compared to the original film, this one only won a single Academy Award for Best Sound Mixing, though it was also nominated for Best Original Score and Best Production Design. John Williams again won a BAFTA for his work, as well as being nominated for a Grammy and a Golden Globe for the second film in a row. The movie also being nominated for Best Sound and Best Production Design. The picture won 4 Saturn Awards for Best Actor, Best Director, Best Special Effects and Best Science Fiction Film, a Hugo Award for Best Dramatic Presentation, and the Golden Screen Award in Germany.
Do you owe me, Junior?
Lucas actually spent thousands of dollars on advertising campaigns to try to get Frank Oz's performance as Yoda an Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actor. He was declined because apparently a puppeteer does not count as an actor. Oh, but this does! This planet sucks.
I know what you mean.
The American Film Institute listed Darth Vader as the 3rd greatest villain of all time. Wizard Magazine selected its ending as the single greatest cliffhanger ever. Total Film voted it the 8th best picture in history. And in 2014, Empire hosted a poll for the 301 greatest movies of all time voted by fans. Empire Strikes Back was voted as the single greatest film ever created.
Most impressive.
Much like the first movie, a novelization of the film was soon made by Del Rey Books, released on April the 12th, 1980, and a Marvel Comics adaptation was soon printed as well. The movie was even adapted for a children's book and record set. In 1982, there was a video game for the Atari 2600. In 1985, an arcade game, which was then converted in 1988 to several other systems. In 1992, an NES game, and then a Game Boy version that same year. And in 1993, the Super Nintendo released Super Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back. Because in the 90s, if you add Super to the beginning of any title, it automatically made it cooler.
Of course I'd look better.
On February the 14th, 1983, a radio play of the story was broadcast featuring some of the original actors reprising their roles, and around 750,000 people tuned in to listen. And yet I can't get 100 people to listen to my music. There's a link in the description. Just go check it out. It's not much to ask for. It's a few minutes of your time. It's only my life in music form.
You will become an agent of evil.
But amazingly, despite this success, despite its accolades, despite its world-renowned glory as the greatest Star Wars movie to have ever existed, George Lucas originally hated it, called it the worst one of the series, and even apologized for its entire existence.
Apology accepted.
It wasn't until it was highly praised years later as the greatest one, he suddenly changed his mind. So he stated his opinion, and then catered to the mass public and completely changed what he thought. Maybe he's friends with Chris Stuckman.
You certainly have a way with people.
Maybe it's because out of all of the films, George Lucas had the least involvement with this one, and he just didn't want to admit that maybe someone else had made a better one than him. Ego is a hell of a drug.
But I've learned so much since then.
Honestly, yeah, A New Hope had issues, but the action saved it, and I thoroughly enjoyed the film, but this one is a vast improvement. A New Hope felt like Lucas played it safe. There's nothing wrong with that, he didn't expect it to be such a big hit, but he kept the plot simple and didn't focus too much on character or story arcs. This one, not only does the production value look a lot better, but it's a much more bold, strong, inventive, and creative premise.
Good.
Director Irvin Kershner admitted that George Lucas wasn't too strong on writing characters and he wanted to focus more on that for this film. And it worked. Mark Hamill wasn't whiny like the original movie, and his acting vastly improved. He felt like an actual relatable and real person. I enjoyed his journey with Yoda, and when he finally meets Darth Vader, the culmination was well deserved and very satisfying to see.
I understand.
C-3PO and R2-D2 are still very much the comic value, and this movie has one of the funniest moments of all time.
Oh, nice to see a familiar face. Ichuta. How rude.
I could watch C-3PO's reaction all day.
Ichuta. How rude.
Seriously, that needs to be prescribed as an antidepressant.
Oh, nice to see a familiar face. Ichuta. How rude.
Harrison Ford's character of Han Solo actually felt like he had some substance here. So in the first one, he was this loner, this money-grabbing, arrogant douche nozzle who only looked out for himself. He had to learn to trust others and actually have compassion. He had to actually allow himself to gain friends. It was subtle and not shown or developed as much as it could have been, but it was there. So then in this one, we see him treat Leia, yes, a bit shitty. It makes sense because it's all a front and deep down he's just scared to allow someone in. To allow someone to be that close to him as he's never done that before. It's a very real and very human emotion, and the character really grows because of it.
I feel terrible.
Princess Leia, on the other hand, is a complete bitch. I'm sorry, this has nothing to do with Carrie Fisher. Her acting in this is incredible and even better than in the first movie, but they took what, in my opinion, was one of the best things in A New Hope and changed her into a really horrible, nasty and bitchy character.
I had nothing to do with it.
So the movie starts and literally all of Han Solo's dialogue towards Leia is him hitting on her. But not even in a charming way, just misogynistic, dick-headed, oh she totally loves me way. Again, this makes sense because of his defensive personality, that's not the issue. Leia naturally rejects him constantly and hates his ego, much like in the original film. That makes sense, but where I draw the line is where she, as a form of revenge, sticks her tongue in her brother's throat, which by the way, ew, right in front of him. That's just nasty for so many reasons. Yeah, she doesn't know it's her brother yet, whatever. Sorry, shh, spoilers.
You have failed me for the last time.
But the first film clearly established Luke as the love interest. There's a brief exchange where Han mentions liking her and Skywalker tells him to piss off and star in Indiana Jones instead of porking his sister. But that's it. So Leia knows that Luke has a thing for her and she even knows that Han Solo has a thing for her. So as a petty form of revenge, she screws with both men's feelings at the same time, giving Luke false hope and breaking Han's heart all at once.
Alright, don't lose your temper.
It's just so nasty, and even later on when Luke is fatally wounded, she kisses him again! So even after she's with Han Solo, oh, it's okay because he's frozen and it's okay because Luke's hurt? What? It's okay to cheat on your incapacitated boyfriend with your brother because he's injured. And the messed up thing is, she then goes about the rest of the film acting normal like nothing happened. And then she says,
You think that after what you did to Han,
she's calling out them for how they're treating Han Solo. Are you kidding me?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Despite this, the story unfolds really well. The action picks up a lot faster in this one, and the special effects look even more stunning than in the first. George Lucas demanded they set this one on a snowy ice planet because in space scenes it's easier to hide your mistakes. He purposely put this one in a wintry wonderland to test the set designers and producers.
Steady, girl. Hey, what's the matter? You smell something?
Welcome to the Himalayas!
They look so good. Yoda looks incredibly real. The fight scenes are just amazing. All performances nail it, including Harvey Dent here. Some of the chase scenes are intense as hell and have your butt cheeks flinch at every passing second. The sets are absolutely impeccable. Everything looks extraordinary in this film. Darth Vader continues to be more badass than ever, having some of the coolest scenes ever shot. But if you really want me to try to nitpick, keyword being try.
General, I gotta leave. I can't stay anymore.
I got an acting class I can't miss. That's the only line that's delivered poorly in this whole film. Just completely emotionless. So I must admit, it does seem quite forced, the love story between Han and Leia. I mean, bear in mind all the events in the first film, and then this is at the 6-minute mark.
Come on. You want me to stay because of the way you feel about me?
What? When? Why? Who? Although it's surprising, I feel like it's a cool idea to have their relationship kind of begin off screen, considering it's 3 years after the first one. It's a nice touch and we join in on the story halfway through, so I kind of like that.
Gonna see you in hell.
Although when you really think about it, Han just bullies Leia into going out with him until she finally gives in and says yes just to shut him up. Incest and relationship manipulation. Best series ever.
Take it easy.
Even some of the dialogue just seems so forced, like they realised, wait, they're not developing, let's hurry this up.
Come on, admit it. Sometimes you think I'm alright.
occasionally, maybe.
What a beautiful couple. I mean, really think about it. What kind of message is this? Treat each other like shit and then you're the perfect couple? I mean, remember when he said,
But they're gonna kill her!
Better her than me.
Such a charmer.
Captain Solo, do you copy?
No, it's The Force Awakens that copies. They really shouldn't have shown this tiny Darth Vader hologram. It looks hilarious. Who's gonna take this seriously? How exactly are they missing this ship? It's bigger than George Lucas's ego. So, yeah, they have oxygen masks, but you're in space. You would freeze to death. And yeah, what about gravity? I don't know if you know this, Georgie boy, but there's no gravity in space. Space, isn't George Lucas's strong point. Ironically.
Come with me.
And you'll be in a world of pure imagination.
When we finally see Luke and Darth Vader face off, I feel like it's a little underwhelming, like...
Obi-Wan has taught you well.
Never mind. Okay, I just feel like it should have music to make it even more intense. Yes! This movie just delivered one of the greatest third acts of all time. The action is insane, the effects, the sheer storytelling, all combined makes this just pure gold, and I cannot credit this sequence enough. Most issues of this movie are nitpicks. The only one that was a really major problem was Leia, but it's nowhere near enough to bring down this entire masterpiece of a film. Honestly, it's easily one of the greatest sequels ever made. And we're only just getting started. What do you think, Batman? You're so much cooler than Darth. It's all good.